You're listening to the #1 podcast for nonprofit leaders, getting your nonprofit fully funded. This is the Fundraising Masterminds Podcast. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the myth of the multiples. And really, this is in the area of a myth that nonprofits get stuck into a mindset of something that they think that is really helping, but in fact, it's actually hurting them.
Oh, absolutely. And I can't tell you how many of those kinds of things. I've seen nonprofit organizations do things over the years that they see someone else do. And because someone else did it, it means that it works, it's effective,
right?
But actually it's ineffective.
It's kind of like a monkey see, monkey do kind of thing.
Well, absolutely.
Like, hey,
that's right.
It works for you, maybe it works for me.
That's right.
Let me just try it.
Yeah. And this is absolutely one of those things.
Okay, so what exactly is the myth of the multiples?
Thanks for asking. That's a great question. The myth of the multiples essentially says, I've got a goal. I have this many individuals on my donor base.
Right.
If I just take the number of donors on my database and divide that by my total goal, and let's say as an example, it's $25, that if everyone on our database gives $25, we can raise our goal of $25,000. Well, in reality, that is in an absolutely wrong way of thinking of things. That is not the way to achieve your goal. And here's why. Number one, that $25 for some people may be a real stretch. An individual may not be able to, believe it or not, give $25. But really, in reality, what happens is, in almost every case, it significantly under-challenges people. So you're asking someone who might have the capability of writing a $5,000 check, you're asking them to give $25.
Right.
I've never in my life had one person say to me, Jim, I know you're asking for $25, but I'm going to give you $5,000.
Right.
People give what we expect them to give and what we ask them to give. And that tends to be a real mistake in a situation. And it happens all too often.
Well, a good example of this is a while ago when a big earthquake hit Haiti and the world was concerned about Haiti. Everyone wanted to help out. And there were a lot of campaigns going around of text 25 to, Haiti and, solve all the world's problems, right? So this is kind of an example of what we see out there, because the mindset is, well, hey, if everyone gave $25,
right,
we would accomplish our goal.
Sure.
And to a certain degree, you're kind of right.
Yeah, you will raise some good money with something like that.
So we're not saying that you're not going to raise money using these methods. We're just saying that in terms of getting long-term partners to join your organization and join your cause for the long run, right? You're not going to win people's hearts through that method.
Right.
It's a one-time gift.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that we can make in development and fundraising is under-challenging someone.
Right.
In fact, I often say that if someone immediately says yes to my appeal, I've under-challenged them.
Right.
Because if someone doesn't have to pause for at least for a moment and think about, how am I going to get that money? How is this something that is doable? I know I'm not stretching them in that to a degree. I feel like I've lost from that standpoint, and that's what the myth of the multiples is doing.
Right.
You're simply, for the most part, under challenging a large segment.
So essentially what you're saying is you want to know your demographic enough, or know your people enough, to know that there's certain categories of people who give more.
Right.
And there's certain categories of people that give less.
Right.
And so custom tailoring your appeal to specific audiences, right? We had a whole episode just a while back where we talked about marketing.
About target marketing,
and we talked about segmenting our marketing to specific types of people. So that's kind of the same type of thing there.
Well, that is the way, Jason, really, to make this profitable. You've got to know your audience a little bit better, and you need to target your appeal and gauge the amount that you ask for based on a couple factors. If these are current partners of yours, you need to go back and look at their history. What is their largest single gift? What do they have the capability of sitting down and writing a check for? If it's $1,000, asking them for $25 is way under challenging someone. Typically, what I will do is I will categorize people at least the minimum. I'll put people in a category and say, if someone has written a check before for $5,000 or more, I can ask these people for a gift of $5,000 or more.
Right.
If they fall in a category of $1,000 to $499, I can ask them somewhere in that category, or $1 to $999.
Right.
And so if they're current partners, you can take their past history. If they have never given to you before, and you've got a whole group of people who are potential, or you believe you have the capabilities to give, you need to do some homework, and you can do some research. There's a lot of research organizations. Wealth Engine is a classic example. I use Wealth Engine often for determining when someone's going to come to an event or an activity that's never given to us before. I know what their capability is. And of course, Wealth Engine, for those of you who know Wealth Engine tracks a wide variety of key indicators, such as what's the value of your home, what's the estimated income that you have every year, what's the estimated total net worth of your estate, do you own other properties, what kinds of things have you given to.
Well, doesn't that seem a little stocky, like kind of comes across as like you're snooping in on people's lives and trying to figure out, what, I don't know. I could see a portion of people saying, well, we just need to just send it out and just trust God with the difference. And, that's, doing all this research and digging and trying to figure out what they have and all this stuff. That's just too
Well, I'll tell you,
me.
Jason, I don't know about you, but nowadays, if I get a call and someone asks me to set up an appointment with them, I'm going to go into LinkedIn, I'm going to go on Facebook, I'm going to go in Instagram, I'm going to find out who they are, and I'm going to find out a little bit about that person before I actually meet with them. And it's essentially doing the same thing. I believe it's just wise stewardship to find out about someone before you meet with them. Yeah.
Right.
Who they are, what they, if nothing else, it's going to give me some discussion topics when I'm meeting with them.
And people who are in different demographics think differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a business owner is going to think a lot differently than an employee.
Right.
And it's just a different mindset,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so coming to them with understanding where they're at, a business owner may not even be remotely interested in giving $25 to anyone, because he knows that $25 isn't gonna, it's like 25 cents to him.
Yeah.
But for someone who owns a business and they understand the principles of investing, they understand that it takes money to make money.
Right.
And you go to that person and say, we're trying to accomplish this goal and we need an investment of $25,000 to accomplish this.
Yeah.
Well, that's got their attention.
Right.
Because they know that $25,000 is something that they can do that would actually make a significant difference.
Right.
So it's a different mindset. Yeah. Obviously, you're not going to say that to the person who's working at Dollar General as a cashier.
Right.
They just don't have that kind of mindset, or they're not thinking in that kind of capacity. Right. So your appeal is going to be slightly different.
Absolutely.
To your different audiences.
And it should be. I believe, and Scripture backs it up, that God wants us to be good steward of our resources. And that's time, your talents, your treasures. And I believe actually not researching someone is being a poor steward of your resources, because you have the capability. It's out there to determine what kind of gift and the size of gift that they are capable of giving. And not doing that, I believe you're being a poor steward.
So really a good takeaway from this is to go through your donor list if you haven't already. And we talk about this in other episodes, but 20% of your list typically gives 80% of your funding.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to identify the 20% and to know who they are and to categorize them in the different buckets of giving in terms of frequency, recency, and giving amount.
Absolutely.
Right? We had a whole episode where we talked about that as well. And so understanding that those data points will help you to craft specific ways of reaching those people,
right,
through direct marketing, through emails, through phone calls, through getting together in person, you know, all these things. And it's a more effective way because then you know how to specifically reach certain kinds of goals based on what your organization is doing.
Oh, absolutely. And I think once again, it's being a wise steward to know what their areas of interest are. I've used an example before. I had a colleague that met with a couple. Now, we had a project that's still going on now. It's an ongoing strategy and effort called everystudent.com. And it's a website that's an evangelistic website to reach out to young people with the gospel, and it's a resource to anyone that is exploring and investigating who is God, who is Jesus, what is the Christian faith,
right?
And it has been a game changer from the standpoint of being an effective evangelistic tool. Now, every person that he had presented this to, my colleague, just loved it and couldn't wait to fund it. So he kind of got out ahead of his skis in this particular situation. He didn't ask the normal questions that we teach and that we ask, which are, what makes you weep and pound the table? What do you like? What are your areas of interest? What is it that you like to see happen and fund? If he did that, he would have found out that these people had an aversion to the internet. And in fact, when he got done with his presentation, they were quiet and they paused for a moment and said, Jim, you need to know that we believe that the internet is of Satan, and my wife believes that it's even worse than that. So he missed the mark tremendously. And if he would just asked a few questions, he would have known that this everystudent.com was not the appeal for them. He could have asked them for something else. So I believe that not asking the questions and understanding where people's needs are, where their desires are, where their passions are, you're making a big mistake. And that's what comes from research.
Right. And that all comes back to one of our core principles here at Fundraising Masterminds, which is friendraising.
Right.
Which is with the idea of that we want to build long-term relationships to get partners in our nonprofit to help us achieve the mission and vision and values that we're so excited about.
And in fact, it almost sounds like heresy. And I know some people would feel this way and say this, but I would turn down $1,000 today if I knew I was going to get $5,000 in a year from now. And that is what friendraising essentially is. Fundraising is taking the money and run. Oh man, I got the $1,000 right now. I'm going to take it and run. But if someone essentially says to me, hey, I want to build this relationship up a little bit, and at the end of that, I'm going to give you $5,000. I'll take that 100% of the time. But I know some people would be, man, I want the $1,000 today. And
we get stuck into this scarcity mindset, and we get stuck into, we need money right now. We're watching our bank account get lower and lower and lower, right? And we panic.
Sure.
And we start just, hey, I need money.
Yeah.
Money solves all problems. The problem with that is that you will always need money, right? So you fall into this perpetual trap of like almost being a professional beggar in a way, where you're just going around asking people for money. Some people get really good at it and, they raise a lot of money doing it. Right. But it's kind of a circle of death because it never stops.
That's right.
You always need more money.
Oh, yeah.
And you're always going to be asking people for money. And honestly, I don't mind helping someone once in a while, but if the same person is coming to me, every month saying, well, thank you for your gift of 100, but now I need 200, or thank you for your gift of 200. Now I need, you start to, as a donor in that situation, you start to think, well, what are your long-term plans for, solving this problem, or what exactly is my money going to, how is it being used, and you start asking these questions. And that's the kind of stuff that building relationships with people right? And explaining to them what their mission, vision, and values are, and giving them, opportunities to invest in the organization is going to be a much better long-term play than just trying to get money now. Right. So one of the things that we advocate huge in this area is a certain type of an event.
Right.
And this event is going to essentially enable you to do the following things. So if there was a way that we could get the message out to as many people as possible and recruit others to come alongside and to get funding, in the door, as well as to build long-term relationships, that would be like the most ideal situation, right?
Absolutely.
And so, Jim, is there any way that we can actually do that as an organization?
Well, Jason, you're absolutely right, but I think the biggest mistake that a lot of nonprofit leaders make is that they start to look into what I call transactional relationships. They get into that. Much like we do with an ATM. An ATM, if you think about an ATM is only important when you need money. But when you don't need money, you could walk by an ATM and not even know that it exists.
Right.
When you need money, all of a sudden it jumps out and it's important to you.
Yep.
But then when you get that money, it's no longer important to you anymore.
Right.
And that's unfortunately the way a lot of our partners believe and they feel about the relationship that you have with them.
Yeah.
And many nonprofits, they feel like that they don't exist unless you need money, and then they're important. I mean, that's heartbreaking.
And of course, that's not what we want people to think like.
No.
From a nonprofit perspective, we just think, well, this is a problem. I solved the problem. Now I'm going to do, what I need to do.
Right.
So we're not intending to treat people that way. But that's how it comes across.
And if you continue to treat people that way, you're going to lose them. You're going to burn out your people. So when we talked about, yes, it's important to get $1 or $1,000 today, that is very, very short-sighted, because what's going to happen is you will burn out your people, and you'll lose them within 2 to 3 years. I guarantee that. What we need are opportunities to have transformational relationships with people.
Right.
And that means that we need to build long-term relationships with people by providing opportunities for them that are exciting, that are aligned with their passion, with their burden that they carry.
Right.
And it's not easy. There aren't a lot of opportunities for transformational relationships. One of the best that we know, of course, is going face-to-face.
Yep.
But you can't realistically go face-to-face with every one of your partners.
Right.
So one of the things that I love that is next in line for transformational strategies and activities is an event where you pull people together to share your mission, vision, values. We call that the Perfect Vision Dinner strategy.
Yes. And the Perfect Vision Dinner strategy is wonderful because it gets your message out to as many people as possible.
Yep.
You're able to recruit people alongside of you to accomplish your mission, vision, and values.
Right.
And it also actually helps to get funding in the door fairly quickly.
Right.
While at the same time, you're able to build those long-term partners. Yeah. So it really is probably one of the best events that we know. In fact, the ministry that you work for, I believe we were talking before the show started that it's the only kind of event that you do.
It really is.
I was asking you, Jim, you talk a lot about vision dinners and I talk a lot about vision dinners. Is there anything else that can accomplish the same goal?
Right.
Because I don't know, maybe you want to do a vision dinner this time and next time you want to do something else because we like to spice up life and stuff.
Yeah.
But really your answer to me was, well, the vision dinner is really the only thing, that really accomplishes everything that we need. So why would you want to change and do something different when you have something that works?
Yeah. And I'm not saying we haven't tried those other things. We've tried walkathons, jogathons, we've done car washes, we've done bake sales. But honestly, so many of those things are so time consuming, they just really, really stress you out and they raise very little money. But what we find is, yes, the vision dinner does take a lot of time and a lot of effort, but you do see a good reward. In fact, such a good reward and a return on your investment that it makes the investment of time and energy well worth it, because you're seeing such a great response.
Well, if this is something that you are interested in and you want to learn more about the Perfect Vision Dinner, you can check out our website at fundraisingmasterminds.net.
Yeah. And just as we debunked the myth of the multiples early on, there's a number of myths that exist with the Vision Dinner and the dinner
with
events.
galas and all kinds of names for it.
And we debunk a lot of things that that are standard practices with a lot of nonprofit organizations.
Right.
We say, you know what? They may sound good. They may sound right.
Yep.
They may raise a few dollars,
Yep.
but they are not the best way to do things.
So on this podcast, you are going to hear different principles that we talk about. And a lot of the stuff that we're bringing into the show is from the course, right? But the course is a laid out program, right? It's step by step.
It's exhaustive.
It's very exhaustive. Yep. And one of the things I love about it is, because of Vision Dinner, you alluded to, it is work.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that you have to do. You have to think about it. You have to plan it. It takes 20 weeks, right? And we were concerned when we made the course that people would buy the course, be excited, and after 2 or 3 weeks they would drop off because they're busy.
Right.
And it's how many courses have you bought where you had all the intentions to go through it?
Yeah. It's like my gym membership.
Right.
I've gone 1 or 2 times since January, and that's it.
Right. And so we actually designed the course to be a live course.
Right.
And the reason for that is because when we work with people live, one-on-one, what we do is we train them on what they need to do, and then we follow up with them. We say, okay, this week you need to do this. And then the following week we say, okay, did you do these things? No, you didn't? Okay, well, make sure you do that by Friday of this week. And then by Friday of this next week, you need to do this and this and this and this. And so we literally hold your hand. We walk you through the entire process of doing the Vision Dinner the correct way, in the way that's going to produce long-term relationships. And as a result, you are going to get fully funded in like 4 months. Right. And it works. This isn't some sales pitch that we are trying to sell you on. It's a concept or whatever. We know it works because we've been doing this for 38 years, and I've been doing it for 20 years. And so we've seen it. Jim has done over 2,500 Vision Dinners over his lifetime. And I don't think I've heard one story where it hasn't worked.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And that's a pretty incredible track record. Not to say that every Vision Dinner has gone perfectly. Right. But even in your crazy stories there was one that you told me the tech team put the lights too close to the fire sprinkler, and like the worst case scenario, sprinklers came on during the event. The guest had to rush out. There's water on the floor. There's all this crazy stuff that happened, and you're still the hotel was able to funnel everyone to a different room, get everything set up really quick, get back in, and even though the pianist was starting the event with Singing in the Rain, and they tried to make light of it, you still did the program, and you still raised the funds. Oh, yeah. And people still did it.
Yeah, they still gave. In fact, I kept thinking, as water was starting to get up to my shoes and into my socks, I kept thinking, we generally make $50,000 plus every year on this event. I'm going to have to give up $50,000 this year. How am I going to make up the difference? But by God's grace, within an hour and a half, we were in the room enjoying the speakers, and I felt confident that $50,000 was going to be back.
So the formula works, and we would love to teach it to you. And it is a personalized training just for you. And, Jim and I get to meet with you. We get to talk with you, interact with you. So if that's something that sounds really interesting to you, if you're in a nonprofit where you are struggling with funding, you're struggling with this idea of fundraising, and you're on that fundraising wheel, and you're like, man, I need long-term partners to invest in my organization, then the Vision Dinner is for you, and you need to check it out. Go to fundraisingmasterminds.net. We've got some webinars on there. We've got ways for you to learn about it. But definitely don't miss it because we only have enrollment periods in the spring and in the fall. We do it twice a year. So depending on when you're finding out about this,
attendance is limited.
Yeah, we only work with 50 people at a time. So and that's just because Jim and I we work live. We can only handle
that connection with people.
Yeah. So it's really great though, and we've been taking a lot of people through it, and the results are through the roof.
Yeah,
so
they are. They accomplish all the things that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
They definitely help with your public relations, with your recruitment of volunteers, and of course your fundraising and your friendraising, which is the most important.
Right. So no more myth of the multiples. Myth of the multiples is not going to do you much good, but we want to focus on building long-term partners for your organization. And we believe one of the best ways you can do that is face-to-face.
Right.
Or the Perfect Vision Dinner.
Large scale events.
Which is a form of face-to-face.
Yeah,
It's an in-person event. So that's the best way. And of course, direct mail marketing, all that good stuff. So,
right.
And while you're checking things out, definitely check out all the other videos that we have here and all the other podcast episodes that we have here. Because if you found this video on YouTube, you might be interested to learn more about what we offer. But we also offer this show as a podcast.
Yeah.
So you can listen to the same episodes on the car or as you work or wherever you are. You can take us with you. Yeah. And I know a lot of people like to consume content that way. So definitely subscribe wherever you are. Because we would love to get more content to you to help you run your nonprofit more effectively. Until next time, I'm Jason Galasinski and Jim Dempsey.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.